Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first ever episode of the Making Media Podcast. I am going to be your host, Bo McDowell. And since it is episode 1, before we get started with today's topic, I wanted to kind of go over what the show's about, what's the point of it, and what it has the chance to become. Now, I've always been interested in the entertainment industry, and I know that encapsulates many things from film and TV to music or video games or writing or anything we use for entertainment. That's why it's the entertainment industry. So throughout the course of this show, I want to be kind of doing a deep dive into this field and why we absorb the kind of material that we do. Now, what I don't want this show to become is just another movie podcast. I think there's plenty of movie podcasts out there where it's just guys sitting around talking about their favorite movies and why they like these movies, or why Scorsese's the greatest director of all time, or superhero movies are falling apart and killing the genre, blah, 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 blah. Because at the end of the day, these are just different people's opinions, and people have different opinions, and sharing opinions only gets us so far. Whereas what I want to do, which is kind of more looking into the ideas and the theories behind what we watch, can help people sort of analyze for themselves what they're watching and why they're watching it, rather than just listening to some guy's take and copying it or arguing in the comments section. Another reason I don't want this to become another movie podcast is because the entertainment industry features so much more than just film that we watch or television that we watch. It's music that we listen to, it's internet content creators that we follow, it's stand-up comics or concerts or live theater that we go to. It's podcasts and internet shows like this one. And so in this show, we're going to talk about some of the more broad ideas that are seen throughout this field, all the way down to some more of the niche things that are seen in these different subgenres individually. And we'll try to look into the different aspects utilized to achieve success and achieve an audience, because that's really what the goal is in this field is to get people to watch, get people to listen, and get people to care about it. Some topics we'll be covering in future episodes are going to be the music field. I've got some buddies that perform and record in their own bands, so we'll be taking a look at that and get maybe a more amateur look at how to break into the field or that area as a whole. We'll have an episode about streaming services and maybe how some work better than others or the different types of content they put out. I've got a friend that studies performance at KU who has done stand-up and improv type things, which is where a lot of actors and writers and comedians get their roots. So we'll have an episode talking about how those can help shape a performer and why they're kind of important things to have in a creator's tool belt. But in today's episode, I'm going to be talking about some of the more broad theories I have about the entertainment industry as a whole and why it is that we watch certain things that we do. Before that, though, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back right after this. Welcome back, everybody. Now, before we left off, I was bringing up today's episode's topic, which is what the different types of media are that we consume and the different reasons that we have for consuming it. From what I've found, there are 3 main reasons that we watch or listen to different things. Maybe it's 4, but we'll go over that later. I think primarily there's just these 3. The first of which is the one most people will probably think of as just entertainment. This could be like movies or film or sports or even music. Almost all the music we listen to is just for entertainment. Video games and a lot of YouTube videos, and probably most of what we watch. Most things I would put into the category of entertainment being the reason we watch them. Now, that may seem a little obvious and kind of stupid because, of course, that's why we're watching things. We're watching it for entertainment. We're watching it for pleasure, whether it be comedy, action, drama, competition, or whatever. We're watching it to be entertained, to be amused. Because this is the biggest category, we're going to dive a little deeper into it in a minute. But first, there are other reasons that we watch things that I'm going to go over here. The next biggest reason is education. This doesn't just encapsulate whatever video the teacher puts on or rolls a TV in on a cart for the class to watch, but actually a lot of different things could fall into the category of education. Obviously, there are educational videos in a sense of like school subject things like Khan Academy math tutorials or crash course history videos or whatever. And there are educational productions like full on documentaries. But another big part of this category is how to videos or guides. How to videos are extremely helpful resource for learning whatever it is that you want, be it something to do with your work or school or even hobbies. I remember at a very young age, my brother and my dad and I would search up how to beat different video game levels when we were stuck. Recently, I built my own computer that I'm recording this on with nothing but just some YouTube videos. And probably at least once a week, I'm searching how to do something or other on a piece of Adobe software. You can learn just about anything on the internet, and so it's a large part of what we absorb. Even training videos for businesses fall into the education category. Anything we watch to learn from, either because we want to or not, could fall into the category of educational. And a lot of the time there's overlap. Something can be educational and entertaining. A lot of how-to or DIY videos online have to be entertaining too, or else people are just going to click away to another video on the topic that is. Shows on the Food Network or Travel Channel or National Geographic can be educational and entertaining, or things like Bill Nye the Science Guy. That's why we have the combination of these two fields, edutainment, because content is subjective, and so some people can find things one or the other, or both, or neither. Another feature of the education category is the news. The news isn't meant to be entertaining necessarily, rather just educating people on current events or politics. And it's maybe one of the largest pieces of the education category just because of how many people watch or read the news on any different platform. The next category is connection. This category probably also overlaps with entertainment or even education because, again, content is subjective. Different people have different opinions on the different things that they consume. Now, I originally thought of the connection category in a parasocial sense. Someone watches something because of the person or the people in that thing. This is a big deal nowadays with the internet content creator space, with a YouTuber or a TikToker or a Twitch streamer's audience. Viewers will watch someone's content to show their support and because they think they have some sort of connection with these people when they're really just strangers online. Similar things could be said in the news space with personalities like Tucker Carlson or Ben Shapiro nowadays. This isn't something new necessarily, as even back in the day there would be people saying, oh, there's a new Burt Reynolds movie or George Clooney or whoever. We have to go watch it, even if they don't necessarily know or care what the movie's about. It may start from a place of entertainment, but grow to be something more, even though there isn't any real connection there. The other part of this category is actual connection. This isn't about the connection between the viewer and the creator, but about the connection between the viewers themselves. With the internet today and the ability it has to connect all of us through any different interest or hobby or niche, obviously there will be connections made based on the types of media we're into. One of the biggest examples of this nowadays is with weekly episodes of large pieces of streaming service content, like recently The Last of Us or The Mandalorian. People share an interest and a connection with these things, and so they watch them to understand and talk about what happens. This isn't something new either. The season 3 finale of MASH, way back in 1975, had so many people watching at the same time that sewer systems were backed up during commercial breaks because everyone would go to the bathroom at the same time. Making connections based on the media we consume isn't a bad thing, it's just making the right type of connection that's important. So just to recap so far, the main reasons we watch things are entertainment, education, and connection. These are just the big three that I came up with, but I'd love to hear other people's thoughts on more, and maybe something I left out. So if you think of any other reasons we watch things, or any examples that fit into these categories, you can reach out or share your thoughts on Twitter at MakingMediaShow. There is a fourth category that I don't necessarily count with these three reasons we willingly consume things, because rarely are we willingly consuming it, and that is advertisements. Advertising could sort of fall into all of these categories, with good ads at least being a little entertaining so we remember them, educating us on the product or service itself, and trying to form a connection between the viewer and the company so that they purchase the product. The main three reasons, however, are more about why we seek out a piece of media to consume, to help creators know how to reach their audience and to help an audience know more about themselves and what they're watching. And advertisements are not something we typically want to watch unless it's for one of the other three reasons, like a funny Super Bowl ad being entertainment, or watching ads in a marketing class being educational. But again, I don't really count advertising as one of these reasons because the things we consume, we should have a reason to consume, not some business. We're going to be taking another break here, but when we come back, I'm going to be looking more into that entertainment category and what makes us find things entertaining. So stay tuned. So what makes something entertaining? The root of almost everything we see as entertaining, from what I can tell, is conflict. Most of what we watch for entertainment has conflict of some sort or another. The idea of this seems to originate from literary narrative conflicts. There are a few of these, and there's a graphic I really like by Grant Snyder that I think displays some of these very well, if you want to Google it. But it shows 9 of these, the first of which being man versus nature, or man versus supernatural, which can be anything from Hatchet to Jurassic Park. Protagonists have conflict with natural elements of the world, be it weather or creatures or things like that. The next is man versus man. This one's obvious. It's a person having conflict with another person. Think of Romeo and Juliet, or Gladiator, or most James Bond films or superhero movies. The protagonist versus the antagonist. The next is man versus God. This was much more common in mythology and ancient works like the Odyssey, but can still be seen today sometimes with more modern religions. There's also man versus no God, which is a more modern idea of a person struggling with the existence or not of a spiritual figure. This is similar to 2 others, man versus self and man versus reality, or man versus fate, where the struggle is more internal, of a person having conflict with a philosophical idea or coming to terms with something. Another conflict is man versus society, which is similar to man versus man but with a group of people, or similar to man versus reality, where it is a person or people coming to terms with a societal idea or construct. The next one is man versus technology. Obviously, this is when someone has conflict with technology or a machine. This could be like man versus man or man versus nature, but with a machine as the antagonist, or similar to man versus society or man versus reality, but with the use of technological advancement or control, like in George Orwell's 1984. The final type of conflict on this list is man versus author. This can be similar to man versus God, but with the breaking of the fourth wall, making the creator of the story the antagonist. Or it can be similar to man versus self, if the story is from a more autobiographical perspective. So to recap, the 9 categories I listed today are man versus nature, man versus man versus God, man versus society, man versus self, man versus no God, man versus technology, man versus reality, and man versus author. Some people don't count all of these, some people count even more, some think that certain categories have more categories within them, but these are just the 9 that I went over. Many of these categories blend together because good stories contain many different conflicts, and because, as I've already stated, a lot of this stuff is subjective, and one person may view it differently than another, or take away a different aspect of the story. Conflict is in most entertainment we consume. Obviously, stories feature protagonists solving a problem with a conflict and a resolution, a climax, and all of those narrative aspects, but even beyond that, there's conflict in everything. Sports we watch are just man versus man or team versus team competition. The news shows conflicts, man versus man, country versus country, politician versus politician, or people versus society. But why are we talking about all of this? Knowing about ideas and theories behind media we consume can help us be more cognitive of a viewer or creator of it. Spreading information and opinions about these things helps people think about them more, which can help people to create better stuff. If you have anything you want to add or discuss about this episode, maybe examples, questions, or your own ideas you want to put out there, again, reach out on Twitter at MakingMediaShow. Or if you like this episode or discussions on topics like this, stay tuned for more in the future on Spotify. This was episode 1 of Making Media. Thanks for watching.